Just like The View, only without all the annoying broads, it's the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. A Medicare podcast that brings a tear to the eye. Skating on thin ice, it's Medicare expert Doug Jones.
Hello. It's your old buddy, Uncle Doug, Medicare expert for today and perhaps for the rest of the week. It's wonderful to know that you all are out there enjoying this podcast. I hope you enjoy it anyway with us, with Randy and I. I am here to help you feel confident about Medicare. I say that all the time, but it's a very sincere expression of my true ambition and my goal in life. And never am I happier than when I get up in the morning and I open email and I've got thank yous from people, very sincerely expressed, and it just makes it all worthwhile. So if your time comes to consider your Medicare enrollment, or if you've got a friend or relative who's heading in that direction, you could do much worse than to direct them to purchase my book, Medicare for the Lazy Man, on either Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. Right now, the 2024 edition is on, and we will be working on creating the 2025 edition before you know it, because the information has been released by the government that makes that a necessary annual function. So right now, though, for 2024 edition has about 95% of the stuff that's going to be in the 2025 edition. It's just that some of the little details are going to be a little bit different. And I'll explain those later in the podcast episode. But for the time being, if you go to Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com, pick up a copy of Medicare for the Lazy Man, then you're going to find an invaluable tool to ease the transition from regular health insurance to Medicare health insurance. And using my recommendations, you will be able to build a wall of protection that will make sure that you're not financially harmed in the event of expensive medical treatment. You'll have a slight out-of-pocket nick in your wallet, but that's what everybody has to go through. Everybody's got to pay a deductible that has enrolled in Medicare since 2020, and it's just you can't escape it. So there's going to be a $200+ deductible, $257. That's one of the new figures that I have to add into the new book, and $257 is that's what everybody has to pay. And after that, Medicare really takes good care of you. Medicare Part A, Medicare Part B, and I could go on, but I think you're better off reading it in the book, Medicare for the Lazy Man. So pick up your copy, bring it home, sit down with a stiff drink, and in a short period of time, you will have become a Medicare expert. That's the gift that I offer you. Speaking of gifts, Randy Carson is wearing a hat that he and I both aspire to have happening. It supports our political views, and I'm glad to see Randy. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Very, very well. And
You look bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
yeah, well, don't be looking at my bushy tail like that, will you, please? Kind of
Okay.
creeps me out a little bit.
Okay. I won't talk about your bushy tail anymore.
Well, as luck would have it, we are in the throes of transition period before after the election, but before the inauguration, which is 3 months away. I don't know why it takes 3 months, but things are going hot and heavy. And what I'm trying to do is to get through all of our last year's, our 2024 articles about Medicare Advantage. And Randy assistance is invaluable in that he chooses the number of the article that we will be addressing in each episode. I had to turn my phone off, that nasty ringer. I bet your noise cancellation program probably took care of that, huh?
I didn't even hear it.
It sounds like dive, 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 on a submarine. And so it makes me want to hit the floor and cover my head. But in this case, it was just my telephone. Somebody's leaving me a voicemail, and my phone, I guess the new programming, lets me read the voicemail as it's being transcribed. Just let me know your impressions are as soon as you can. Everybody's in a big hurry, I swear. Okay. Anyway, let's continue with our Medicare Advantage Minute for this episode. Randy,
Okay,
it's,
well, I feel particularly well studied and well versed in terms of
yeah,
which article to pick this morning.
I know you take this
So
very seriously.
I do. I stay up pretty much all night, right before the podcast to make sure that I pick the appropriate one. And I am going to go with 18.
All righty. Article number 18. So I am pulling it out of the stack and I'm going to cross it off the list so we don't accidentally try to find it again someday. And I'm going to set the stack aside because we don't need it anymore. Article number 18, headline is Feds killed a plan to curb Medicare Advantage overbilling after the industry opposition. So the feds, so Medicare Advantage plans were overbilling for their services. The federal government found out about it and they had a plan to curb that illegal activity, but the Medicare Advantage plans opposed that plan. And so the feds said, okay, well, we won't try to make you follow the rules then. Interesting.
Go ahead and quit. Really, go ahead and keep stealing from us, people. We don't care.
Yeah, my childhood would have been a lot more fun if my parents had just overlooked every silly thing I came up with when I was a kid instead of correcting my behavior. Apparently, the federal government doesn't treat Medicare Advantage plans the same way. Let me read a little bit of this and see if it makes any sense at all to normal human beings. I'll be asking Randy whether it made any sense to him after I read some of this. A decade ago, federal officials drafted a plan to discourage Medicare Advantage health insurers from overcharging the government by billions of dollars, only to abruptly back off amid an uproar from the industry. And this is from newly released court filings. Now, this happened a decade ago. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services published the draft regulation in January of 2014. The rule would have required health plans, when examining a patient's medical records, to identify overpayments by the government and to refund them to the government. But in May of 2014, the government dropped the idea without any public explanation. Newly released court depositions show that agency officials repeatedly cited concerns about pressure from the industry. The 2014 decision by the government and events related to it are at the center of a multi-billion-dollar Justice Department civil fraud case against United Health Group, which is pending in federal court in Los Angeles. The Justice Department alleges that the giant health insurer cheated Medicare out of more than $2 billion by reviewing patients' records to find additional diagnoses, adding revenue while ignoring overcharges that might reduce bills. The company buried its head in the sand and did nothing but keep the money, said the Department of Justice. Medicare pays health plans higher rates for sicker patients, but it requires that the plans bill only for conditions that are properly documented in a patient's medical records. In a court filing, United Health Group denies wrongdoing and argues it should not be penalized for failing to follow a rule that the government considered a decade ago but declined to adopt. All right. Well, I think we've got the gist of that article. And Randy, did that make sense to what would be a normal human being? You're an excellent.
No, it didn't. I mean, it didn't surprise me any, but no, it makes no sense. So, you know what thought popped into my head as you were discussing that, Doug?
What thought is that?
Move on. Nothing to see here.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, it's unfortunate that the government kind of folded up and just, went on their way instead of pursuing what is obviously blatant theft and fraud that cost billions of dollars. I'd like a refund on the taxes I paid during the 10 years that I should not have been contributing to the avarice and the greed of that particular company.
What
But I'm
what's a couple billion among friends, Doug?
well, okay, all right. It seems to me maybe you and I picked the wrong way to earn a living. Uh, we'd be uh, we'd be rolling in tall cotton if we had actually started an insurance company and followed that path of product sale,
I bet
Medicare
the new
Advantage plans.
DOGE department's not going to like that.
Yeah, well, that's the greatest thing in the world. I love hearing about that. I can't wait to hear more. Department of Government Efficiency.
Yes.
And who's in charge of it? Is it Elon or is it somebody else?
Elon
It's
and Vivek.
Vivek. Okay, both of them are in charge of it. That's a fantastic thing. The closest we ever came to doing anything like that was the Reagan years, but Reagan never had a majority in both houses of Congress. And in the first Trump administration, he had thoughts of doing that, and he did do something I was dearly fond of, which was mandating that every rule that was passed had to include, I think, two rules that were eliminated. And his goal was to eliminate over-regulation of various industries. So, I can only hope that this thing takes hold and that people become enthusiastic about the government being more efficient.
You know
But,
that name, DOGE?
uh,
I got to thinking last night, and I believe I'm not, don't hold me to it, but I think that either still is or was the name for a Bitcoin early on.
oh, really? Well, there are people highly placed in the Trump administration that are Bitcoin fans, I guess, or Bitcoin investors, or they
Yeah.
don't shy away from Bitcoin. I don't know enough about Bitcoin to know whether it's the kind of thing we want to have or not, because there are a lot of financial experts that say that if we have a totally non-cash economy, that the government can squelch a lot of private enterprise and keep track of the things that citizens are purchasing and maybe put the kibosh on them, like weapons, like
Yeah,
ammunition.
I mean that is the downside to it, and because of that, I share some of the same concerns.
Yeah, well, I don't know how it's going to play out. I can only hope that the people that are in charge right now are going to be making the right decisions for the future of the country. Um,
I personally use buffalo hides.
well, I was just thinking the other day that I've heard several ladies on various podcasts use a term that I hadn't heard in a long, long time, and it refers to the posture of somebody sitting on the ground. And when I was a kid, it was always Indian style. We sat Indian style,
Right.
which is what made me think about it when you said buffalo hides. But now they say they don't let kids say the word Indian. They have to sit crisscross applesauce. And
Oh, for
that,
God's sakes.
yeah,
Come on, people.
that was precisely my thought as well. What kind of a sissy outfit? What are we teaching kids nowadays? Well, hopefully the Trump administration will appoint a czar of proper seating, posture calling. You got to
I can just see it now. Geronimo with sitting around the fire with the rest of his hood,
try. Yeah, yeah, his
and he
buddies.
said, "Well, let's sit crisscross applesauce, people."
Incredible. I've got a list going of phrases and terms that I do not like and that I want to get rid of. So when it gets long enough, we'll make a whole episode just about that.
Sounds like a plan. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself out and quit bugging you.
Alrighty. Next thing I want to talk about is the new 2025 government regulations for Medicare. Just a few things I've got here. I'm not going to do the whole thing because that's why I write the book every year. The Part A deductible, that's for hospitalizations. It was $1,632. That would be paid by the insured person or the patient when they go into the hospital. Now, if they stay one day, then anything being charged by the hospital in addition to $1,632 is going to be paid at 100%. If they stay in 5 days, all they're going to pay out of pocket is $1,632. Now that's 2024. This year, that new deductible amount for 2025 is $1,676. So it went up $44. That's 2.7%. So I'm inclined to think that we haven't been smacked as hard by inflation as I would have anticipated. So the Part A deductible, and that's all you would pay for the first 60 days that you're in the hospital. After 60 days, you'd have to start paying a daily copay. But the Part A deductible went from $1,632 to $1,676. That would be what you would have to pay if you're contemplating a hospitalization, inpatient hospitalization in 2025. The Part B deductible, that's for all things that happen outside the hospital. If you're not a hospital inpatient, it used to be $240 all during the year of 2024. It is now $257. That went up 7.1%. It's a $17 increase from last year's Part B, as in Bravo deductible. It's still, not a horrible dollar amount to have to pay as a deductible, because most people that have corporate health insurance have deductibles that are far in excess of that $257. And if you have a high deductible plan, as I tell all of my clients to purchase, that's not going to be much of an increase either. That's going to be a 2.5% increase in the deductible. So if you've got a high deductible plan G, for instance, the plan I recommend to all of my clients, that deductible is going to increase by 2.5% from $2,800 to $2,870. I think that's not very significant, and it's going to make the people who have the high deductible plans feel confident that they've still got the best coverage around. And that, in fact, leads me to a commercial break. Randy has neglected to give me the high sign for the commercial break. Up, there he goes. So we're going to take a little break right now. We're going to listen to some fantastic commercials, and then I'll be right back. All righty. I'm looking through my other pile of stuff in order to discover what the reason, I saw this morning. Oh, here we are. Okay. This is a letter, actually a circular letter going to brokers about the new rates in New York by Globe Life. This is a sister company to United American, one of the companies that I tout a lot, and they're announcing their new New York rates. Now, I've always loved selling to New Yorkers because the way the New York laws are pressuring the health insurance companies, Plan G, the plan that's the most comprehensive coverage, is hugely expensive, but almost nobody is covered by High Deductible Plan G, and so it is a lot cheaper. And so I tell my clients in New York, hey, you're going to be able to save more than the amount you're risking. In other words, if you have Plan G, all you pay if you need medical treatment is the Part B deductible, and then that's it. You don't pay anything else. But what if you had High Deductible Plan G? Well, you'd also have to pay some coinsurance, and you would actually have to dig into your pocket if you had a lot of medical treatment to the tune of about $2,870 starting next year. So where does that money come from? Well, normally I tell people in prior years, put away your savings, put it in your sock drawer, put it under your mattress, and then if you have medical treatment and you need to pull some money out to handle the deductible and the coinsurance on your High Deductible Plan G, you'll have plenty of cash to cover that extra expenditure. In New York and in South Florida and places like that, the savings are so terrific. The regular Plan G rates are so high and the High Deductible Plan G rates are so low that the monthly savings actually exceed the amount at risk. There is no financial reason why anybody should ever purchase the regular Plan G when the savings actually exceed the risk for High Deductible Plan G. So here's what's happening in the latest round of rate increases in New York. The regular Plan G rates have been increased by 5%. And I believe that's going to be in many cases, let's see, $366 would be the monthly premium for a Plan G in New York. Plan N, a lot of people are told to think about Plan N as a cheaper alternative. So instead of $366 for Plan G, Plan N would only cost $359. High deductible Plan F, which has been around forever, went up to $109. But my favorite plan, High Deductible Plan G, stayed the same at $72. It is incredible. There is no rate increase on High Deductible Plan G, and the people who have High Deductible Plan G are saving pretty close to $300 a month. They're saving about $290 times 12, which is a sum of money larger than the amount they would be risking by signing up for High Deductible Plan G. So my advice has not changed. It is still the same. Buy High Deductible Plan G wherever you are. As time goes on, the increasing premium for the Plan G that many people are told to purchase to give them the most comprehensive coverage, those rates will increase dramatically. They'll be stuck paying those rates unless they were smart enough to take High Deductible Plan G in the first place, or unless they finally get sick of paying the expensive premiums and they ask to be allowed into the High Deductible Plan at some point in the future. And in many states, they're going to have to show evidence of good health. They're going to have to go through medical underwriting. And by that time, this will be many years after age 65. It's entirely possible that they will have health conditions or a health history that will preclude that insurance company from allowing them to make the plan change. Why take the chance that that's going to happen? Go for the High Deductible Plan from the get-go. That's my advice to you. All righty. I have a piece of correspondence here from a person who is not a client, but who wants to become a client. I'm pretty sure he is not a client. I've got so many clients, it's hard to tell. Anyway, so let me read what he wrote to me. This was about a week ago, exactly a week ago. His name is Timothy, and he wrote, I obviously purchased, it wasn't obvious to me until he told me, I obviously purchased your 2024 edition, and as my current plan, which is a drug plan, he's talking about his Part D as in Delta, prescription drug plan. He has an ARP Medicare RX preferred plan. They raised his monthly premium from $47 to $82 for the year 2025. This guy was smart enough to read his ANOC, his annual notice of change. Other people that I've spoken to were taken completely by surprise. Really? I didn't know that was going to happen. They should have told me about it. Well, in fact, they have by sending you an annual notice of change every year in the fall. So Timothy goes on to say, I followed your advice and fought my way through the Medicare Part D, as in Delta, comparison. And he attached a photocopy of his screen that was in front of him on his computer when he arrived at the comparison of drug plans. It appears that if I went with the number 2 plan, Cigna, and changed to Walgreens, in other words, Cigna's plan has a very inexpensive deal with Walgreens. His expenditure out of pocket for the year would be a lot lower if he went that way. It appears that if I went with Cigna, the plan that was listed as the second cheapest plan, my overall cost would be very low versus what I'm doing now with going to Fry's with the plan that I have currently. However, there's a matter of the zero deductible for the current plan versus the $590 deductible for Cigna. You seem to discount this in your book, but I wanted to contact you on this. I should mention that I'm very happy with Fry's. I want to keep going there. And he told me where the Fry's is, and he's in Arizona, and this is not very far away. In fact, Randy's closer to it than I am, but he uses the Fry's at 64th and Greenway, and he doesn't want to not go there. He wants to be able to have an excuse to go there to have his prescriptions filled. He said, we do our shopping there. I get fuel points for my prescriptions. However, if you agree with my analysis, I would like you to assist me so that you can at least get a few shekels from helping with this. Meaning he wants me to help him enroll in the Cigna plan, which looks like he's going to be saving $900 a year. Yes, for the year. of 2025 if he goes with the Cigna plan. And he said, thanks for your help. And P.S. I'm now going to do the same for the missus. He hasn't contacted me to tell me what her results were yet. So I said, I do have thoughts. Remember, he asked me if I had thoughts, and I said, I do have thoughts, and I'm happy to share them with you. I will assume that you have used your online account and that the list is stored permanently and that you don't have to re-enter it every time. That's the advantage of doing it the other way. I show people how to do it, but you don't have the online password protected account the way I do it. So when you log out of that government website, the list of drugs goes away. And if you ever want to go back and re-examine the results, you have to enter the list of drugs again. If you do it in your own online password protected Medicare.gov account, then the list will stay there forever and you can goof around with it all you want to. So my first thought about the deductible, he mentioned the deductible for one plan was $590 and the other plan was a zero deductible. So what I told Timothy was I discount that deductible because there is an unpredictable element to it. Different plans will have their drug formularies broken up into different tiers. And many of the plans say that they have a deductible, but do not apply that deductible to some of their lower tier drugs. The only way to be sure of which plans their deductible is applying to is to which drugs is to print out that 12-page detail report that they make available on the government website. Thought number 2, how about mail order? That is all I use, but it isn't always the best deal. Once again, the detail report may help you decide whether mail order should be an option. Number 3, the staff at the pharmacy can be your best friends when it comes to maximizing the savings on a variety of drugs. As far as I know, they are usually happy to share their knowledge in this area. Number 4, you don't need to obtain all of your meds at the same place. If you discover that your preferred pharmacy has one drug at a more expensive level than it might be somewhere else, you can take advantage of that knowledge to save even more money. Number 5, do you have any really expensive drugs on your list? How about exploring the possibility of an offshore source that might be cheaper? I have attached a short list of sites that offer that opportunity. Other clients have used these with no negative results reported, so let me know if you are not satisfied. I hope that helps. And then I said, I really appreciate your concern for my revenue. He mentioned that he was hoping I would get some shekels for helping him enroll in the new plan. But almost all of these drug plans are having their arms twisted by the government to operate below their profit line. Most have torn up their agent contracts and stopped paying commissions. Please help yourself to the online enrollment process they offer you and enjoy that last bit of fun with my congratulations. So hopefully Timothy went back to the government website, which is Medicare.gov/plan-search, I think it is. Plan-compare. Thank you. Thank you. But it's scary when my brain and your brain are synced up like that. We both shouted the word at the same time. Plan-compare. That is correct. Also, I gave him a list of 3 websites that will provide offshore sources for drugs, especially if you've got really expensive drugs like Ozempic or Eliquis. One of those is needymeds.org. One of those is offshorecheapmeds.com. And the third one is pharmacychecker.com. So if you've got expensive drugs, you want to explore the opportunity of maybe getting them offshore a lot cheaper. I've had nothing but good news from people who've used these sources. And frankly, I've got nothing but bad news for Randy. We're out of time on this episode. We're going to have to go away now.
We are out of time. I finally got my dashboard started, so we actually have 56 seconds left. But I thought I would point out that I don't get drugs from Walgreens. I don't get it from CVS. I get most of my drugs from Harold's.
Who's Harold?
Harold's in Cave Creek.
Okay, well that would be your liquid drugs, your liquid medication.
Yeah, it's called what is that called? Oh, Guinness. Yeah.
Well, good for you. Although you have found a new place that you say you go more to more than Harold's, which is Mountain View.
Mountain View. I love Mountain View is where it's at. I'm telling you.
The problem I don't like about Mountain View is that it is not closed in all the time. They have a lot of heating, the glowing heat
Yeah.
things. What are those? Oh God, there's a name for that. I've got them on my patio, and I can't figure out what the name.
Glowing heat things.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly what I should. Anyway, those things are not good enough to keep the air warm. They just heat the people and the items that are in front of them. So I don't really like Mountain View when it's cold outside, and it's cold right now. So this is
Well,
not the
yeah,
time of year I would want to go.
it definitely is cooler than I would like. And it's 72 now. People are going to think I'm just absolutely nuts. But 72, as you know, Doug, falls into my category of Arizona freezing.
Yeah, it's not as comfortable as people might think, but it is a string of warm days that we're having now. It'll be in the high 70s, low 80s for a few days, and then it's going to dip down into the 50s and 60s again.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. Well,
but
guess
it's
what?
ultraviolet, by the way.
We're
Thank
out
you.
of time.
Oh, okay. Well,
And by coincidence, we're out of quarters. So I need to close up shop here. We can quit talking about all the fun stuff like Mountain View Pub and Harold's and Buffalo Chip and all those. So anyway, here we go. Here's my stuff that I have to cover before we land the plane. Grab your pencil if you want to reach out to Doug. And as you can see by the podcast content, a lot of people do. You can reach him at dbj@mlmmailbag.com. Don't forget, he is licensed nationwide to help you with your Medicare supplement planning. Check us out at the website. It's really, really getting close to coming in for a final landing on the new website, medicareforthelazyman.com. We would appreciate it if you could drop some reviews for us in your wanderings around the internet. But last but certainly not least, thank you for joining us today. You could have been 100 different places doing many different things, and you chose to spend some time with us, which is exactly where we like to have you. But, as I always say, if you weren't checking your watch, you have just spent about 32 and a half minutes with Doug Jones, the anti-insurance insurance guy, originally from Oklahoma. No more. He's up in the nosebleed section of Cave Creek, Arizona, right next to the Nosebleed Mountains. And I'm going to put him in there at about, okay, I'll be nice. Okay, 9,000 feet.
I don't know what's so nice about 9,000 feet, but I'll take it because he's done worse for me. So thank you, Randy, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure hosting you, and I sure hope you come back for our next episode. Bye-bye.